Last week, as part of our Debruary program, I did an interview with an author named Joyce Fields. And in her interview, she made a bold statement that from her observations and experiences, women are responsible for 80% of the outcome of a relationship. 80% of the burden of the relationship rests on the woman's shoulders. I want to explain what that means and how women, you may not see that number, but in some instances it may be as much as 100%. And I'll break that down for you why you're living a life of exhaustion and sometimes resentment and not really understanding why you're so tired all the time. It's because of something called emotional labor for which you get no credit and no pay. Hang with me. I'll be back in a minute. Let me start by telling you a story sent in to me by one of the viewers. It says, when my husband and I first got married, his grandmother gave all the sisters-in-laws an address book for Christmas. It had the addresses, birthdays, and anniversaries of the entire family, including the extended family. My husband is number 6 of 7. All 7 are married and have children. Many of the cousins have similarly large families. I looked at that book and said, Jesus Christ, that's a fucking lot of family, and never did a thing with it because it's not my family. The nagging started pretty much instantly. Why didn't you send Jan and Steve a card for their anniversary? Who? Jan and Steve, my cousin. Well, never met them, not my family. And there was grumbling. The next event came around. Why didn't I send a card to this person for their birthday? Never met him, not my family, she replies. This goes on for a couple of years with him nagging me about using that address book and me finally getting fed up with it and pitching it in the garbage. Time passed and various bits of the family moved around, and he started to complain about never seeing his family. We had a screaming row about it one night, and he threw a huge tantrum about how I never send cards or call people, and it was upsetting to all of his relatives, and he never sees his brothers, and why don't I ever make any plans? My screaming response back was, they are your family. If they're mad because they're not getting cards and you're mad because you don't see your brothers, that's 100% on your shoulders because they're your family, not mine. I am not your fucking social secretary. And it never occurred to him that it was his responsibility to maintain a relationship with his siblings. My husband does not make friends on his own, she says. It's because he only has friends because I talk to the people first. So then she gives a few examples of different social events and things that they participate in because of her, being the one that reached out. She goes on to say that when I want to do things with my friends, he wants to be included. When I want to do things with my friends and I don't want him along, he sulks. And when he's upset with me and fussing because he doesn't have the same kind of relationship with my friends that I do, he refuses to understand this because I have done all the work of maintaining these relationships and he has done none. When he's feeling especially sorry for himself, he complains if we ever split up, he wouldn't have friends anymore and that my friends would be right there to help me move on. Well, duh. That's because I'm the one who makes plans with them, who talks to them about anything and nothing, who makes them feel welcome and happy in my home when they visit. It's only been in recent years that he's finally gotten it into his head that my emotional needs matter too, and that he needs to get out of the habit of expecting me to be his everything. He is finally understanding that I cannot fulfill his every need, his every want, and he needs to take responsibility for his own social life. The notion of women as being caregivers of the entire fucking universe is so deeply ingrained in some people, and it weighs heavily. Performing this sort of work only when I want to rather than when it is expected of me does help to ease the burden somewhat, but it's still a heavy burden when your partner is clueless. That, in a definition, is a woman who had a husband and his family who expected her to do as Joyce said and carry the emotional burden and do all the emotional labor to maintain relationships with people that she wasn't even related to and had never even met. So let's talk about the definition of emotional labor. The term was originally coined in 1983 by this Arlie Hochschild in her book, The Managed Heart Commercialization of Human Feeling. And basically, what she was the book was about corporate work. So it was designed to discuss the work environment and how people, women, and any employee was expected to present themselves in a way that brought peace and joy and smiles and calm to the customers, no matter how it made the employee feel, no matter if the emotions that the employee had to project and display were real. This is very often the case when you hear the stores and things that have the mandate that the customer is always right. So you got somebody who's just doing something just totally wrong, bringing back something that they had since last year, wore 55 times, but you have to take it back with a smile, knowing that it's a scam because the customer's always right. Even if the customer did something really horrible, you have to smile and say, oh, well, thank you. We welcome your business and all this kind of stuff. The same thing goes on in families. Okay. Now, Hochschild went on to refer to uh, the expectations, or rather the scripts that we're expected to follow, as feeling rules. And she describes these as guides which establish entitlement or obligation in emotional exchanges. For women, these things are primarily for us. They're used to tell us what to feel, when to feel it, where to feel it, how long we can feel it, and how strong our emotions can be. So that's why you have all these people telling you, well, you shouldn't feel that way. Why are you acting like that? You're being so emotional. They want to keep you in a little box because it makes them feel better. So not only are you managing their emotions, you have to your emotions, you have to manage theirs too by your response to what you're feeling about what they've done to you, what they've said to you, how they've treated you. You see how that works? Is it any wonder that so many women have high blood pressure and heart disease? This is stress. This is stressful stuff. And even something as simple as somebody telling you that you have to smile and be happy all the time. Strange men feel like they have the right to dictate your emotional exchange with them. The command that women cannot hurt a man's ego by telling him the truth about his performance or technique or equipment. And you know what I'm talking about. The command that women must, quote, be nice, even when we want to punch somebody in the face. The command that we got to pretend that we like a gift that we're given, even though it sucks. And it's probably some re-gifted nonsense. But you can't say anything because you're supposed to be grateful that someone even thought to give you something, no matter how trash it is. And basically, what it means is that you have to lie so that the other person, you have to lie about what you're really truly thinking and feeling, because you have to put the other person or those other people in a situation that makes them feel good, even though you may be angry, disgusted, livid, all kinds of things, all kinds of emotions are on deck, but you cannot admit that you're having them. Now, these scripts play out in the day-to-day things that women are expected to do to make other people happy. Do we usually get any thanks for that? Acknowledgement, credit for it? Does it show up more on your paycheck? Do you get time off at home where the hubs takes care of the kids because you've done all this emotional labor and it must be acknowledged? Nope, that never happens. So you have to manage not only your feelings and reactions, but you have to manage those of everyone in your household and your family, and even as far as extended family on both sides. It becomes a real chore for women. And this is Joyce's quote from her book, The Best Way to Keep a Man is to Let Him Go. So you notice that statement. It just sent a lot of you to Mars. She just went crazy. So based on my observation and experience, 80% of the success of a relationship rests on the shoulders of the woman. Why is that? because you get in a relationship with guys who are unenlightened, which unfortunately is most of them. Um, as I talked about in the video on the secret expectations and covert agendas, a discussion of what each of you expects from the other really should be like one of your top agenda items before you agree to be in a committed relationship with someone. The burden that wives bear when they want their husband to do their fair share of household work um, is met with something like, well, I'll do it if you tell me what you want me to do. That infuriates women because it's like, look, you live in the house just like I do. You walked past all those toys on the floor to get over here to ask me what you want me to do. You see those clothes this mounding up in the dirty clothes hamper. You know how to turn on the washing machine. Look at all these dishes. You know how to turn on the dishwasher. You see this floor needs to be swept and the vacuum needs to be run. You know how to do both of those things. Why do I have to tell you like I'm your mother what to do in your household for your family? See, that's the stuff, it drives women crazy. So again, it reflects back to what Joy said about the success of the relationship. And as I go on more in this video, I'll give some other stories and share some other examples from women who are dealing with this. Um, it's just it's a burden. It's a burden, and it's like men are socialized that to get out of doing that kind of work, as in as you use so many different games, it's not even funny. But they put women in a position where, it becomes a situation where she has to like guide him and instruct him. And some guys play this game where they act like they can't do anything. They don't know how. So you have to stand there and give them all these instructions. And in most cases, women will give up and do it themselves, which is what he really wanted in the first place. Yeah, there's we go. I got ahead of myself. But there you go. And women do not only the day-to-day management of the home, which a lot of people don't realize what that means. That means the coordinating drop-offs, coordinating pickups, who's getting off from daycare, the homework, tutors, dance lessons, sports, practices, um, birthday parties for children and adults, anniversary parties, Christmas gifts, putting up the Christmas tree, taking the Christmas tree down, laundry, folding it, changing sheets. If you got, kids, you got to go take them to the doctor. Who's going to take time off of work? It's usually the mother. This kind of thing. So that the management there is usually coordinated by the woman of the relationship. And again, this is an unfair burden. It's an unfair responsibility on her, and it is exhausting. Unfortunately, a lot of women don't even think about this. They just assume these roles because they feel like this is what women are supposed to do. No, this is what a parent does. But if you have two parents in the home, even if he's not there, he should still be helping do something with his children. And if you ask him for help, then he's going to see it as nagging. I remember a guy who called in one of my shows when I was on Blog Talk, and he was talking about how it drove him crazy how his woman kept telling him to take out the trash. And I said, well, why don't you just get up and take out the trash, and then she'll be quiet? I mean, to me, that was a simple and easy response. Well, I'm going to do it later. No, you just want to just make her wait and just cause problems in your marriage. All you have to do is get up and take out the trash. It'll take you 2 minutes. What is the problem here? So this is, but by her having to keep telling him to over and over, take out the trash, take out the trash case, then he flips it into her nagging him instead of that I'm an irresponsible jerk who doesn't do what I need to do to hold up my end of the bargain in my household. So even her having to point out that he's not doing his fair share is more emotional labor that she's putting into the relationship. You see what I mean? It's just really deeply skewed. Oops. Now, even this kind of stuff extends to the job. Um, have you ever noticed that when you guys are going to have secret Santas, or someone's leaving, or someone's having a baby shower, or you have a new employee, or someone's retiring, and there's always women who assume that role of organizing these things. And then they actually will go into, if they have to set something up, they'll set it up and they also clean it up. So a lot of people are like, well, just don't do that then. Well, these things are what's called social glue that holds people together. Without these kinds of efforts, without these kinds of interactions and care, showing that you care about other people, it causes a breakdown in society. But why are women the only ones who care? That's the problem. Um, these examples on the slide are some of the many ways that women give energy and emotional labor for friends, for relatives, and for coworkers. Now, if you should be so bold as to try to opt out of doing this emotional labor, you don't want to be bothered. Like, nope, that's like the lady in the first, story. She didn't want to be bothered. Her husband eventually got it, but it caused a lot of what I call collateral damage and hurt feelings of other relatives who weren't getting the social acknowledgments from their family that they got from the others. And it made them look, like something was wrong with them by comparison. So it's a tricky road. I'm not saying that you have to do it, but I'm just saying just know what you're in for because the expectation is there that the woman is going to take the lead in this kind of thing and make it happen. So here's some stories that were shared. This is from Cheryl. She says, if we opt out of doing the expected emotional labor, then we get to deal with the generalized opprobrium for opting out. My husband and I have been together for 20 years, and when I finally asked him, why is your father's wife calling me to arrange for the two of you to go hiking together? He said, because of the patriarchy. Just tell her I'll call my dad directly. So now I have to deal with her calling me 18 times a day and texting me, call me ASAP, until my husband finally remembers to call his father 10 days after the barrage and onslaught started. I could block her number, but that would probably have even greater consequences, not just for myself, but for my husband and children. Now, in this one, what was the easy solution here? It was for Cheryl to tell the mother in law, look, I'm not going to be responsible for nothing to do with their social calendar. Don't call me with this stuff ever again. If you call me to talk to me, it needs to be about something that concerns me. If it's something about my husband and you doing anything with your husband, don't bother because I'm not going to do it. It's just going to remain undone. Call him. Text him. Send him emails. Don't bother me with that. That would be the way to put a stop to that, but it doesn't sound like that's the method she took. Barb says, well, why is it my job to keep track of my husband's mother's birthday? When that sort of thing, I'm terrible at that sort of thing, and he's reasonably good at it. Because even my lovely husband unconsciously offloaded a bunch of familial emotional labor on me when we got married. Worse, why does my mother-in-law get mad at me when he forgets her birthday? Because the whole world expects me to be the birthday rememberer. Actually, the one that annoys me is Christmas presents because it's fucking exhausting to think of presents for him, our kids, and all the members of our large extended family. Then I remind him we have to get something for his parents, and he looks at me helplessly and says, I don't have any ideas. Can you think of anything? No, I've used up all my ideas, and then some of my brain is tired of thinking of gifts, she says. Yeah, you don't get nothing for your parents, I guess they ain't getting nothing. That's how I was. Here's another story. Monique says, I have been shouldering the emotional labor as my parents have aged. For example, when my mother came out of the hospital after having both hips replaced, I left my apartment and slept on the living room couch for 3 weeks so I could help her with her recovery, cook for her, and be available in case she needed anything during the night. And everyone thought that this was the correct and appropriate thing for me to do, despite the fact that my brother was already living there rent-free. Wow. Angelique says, I started a relationship 20 years ago where I vowed not to do it out of step or proportion with my partner. I verbalized this notion at the first missed birthday. It's on you. do to remember your family members' birthdays. And also, while we're at it, you can also make appointments to see a doctor, lawyer, dentist, and you can choose your own shoes, shirts, pants, and shampoo. And you will fill out your own job applications and know when your bills are due and pay them and clean your own shit off the toilet bowl and buy us all lube paper, etc. Doing all this stuff for a bloke is exhausting and it's invisible in its expectation from the guy himself and the family and the community. Yet 15 years on, it's probably just easier to do it because, in my mind, it killed the relationship. So they ended up divorced. He felt like she wasn't doing enough for him. And the final one is from Midge. She says, a mother-in-law birthday example was what happens when a person, almost always a woman, stops doing the unacknowledged and unrewarded emotional labor. Someone vulnerable and without alternatives gets hurt. In this case, a child. I refuse to do the work for that grandparent relationship, so it doesn't exist. Recently, post separation, I said that would no longer be the point person for the kids and the in law's cousin, that the ex would have to handle those play dates, party invites, phone calls, etc. Result, no relationships anymore. The kids miss out on relationships because adults can't be bothered to do emotional work and then wonder why their kids are lonely and upset. So that's what I was saying. There's collateral damage if that's the method that you decide to take, but it is what it is. Not every woman wants to be bothered, and you have every right to not. But this is the fact. As pointed out, the children will suffer because they won't get to have a relationship with their dad's side of the family because daddy's lagging. So these kind of things are necessary, though. So that's to say, there's a fine balance. When you have to do something that's comfortable for you and that's going to maintain the relationships in the family unit that works for you. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to merely point out that this is something that most women don't think about, that they do with just everybody expects it of you. And you don't even get the right to say no unless you really think about it and make a conscious effort to say, no, I'm not doing that. You do it for yourself or you do it for your family. I'm not doing that. So, that's my whole point here in the programming of this month is to point these kind of things out to have you guys think a little deeper about how you're living your life and the choices that you're making and the ways you're letting people treat you and the expectation that you put on yourself. How is this kind of stuff benefiting you? If you can see a benefit to you to do it, then you can, of course, you continue. If you do not, then you have every right to put the brakes on and to stop. It does build a sense of community. It does make people feel loved and cared for and thought of and things like that. But are those people close enough to you that it would matter? So think about that. Okay. Another thing that is a problem, I'm losing track of here, is that grown men demand to be taken care of like children. What shirt should I wear today with this tie? What tie goes with this shirt? It may not seem like a big deal. I mean, unless your husband is colorblind, then yeah, then under that circumstance, you might want to help him pick out something. But in general, they're just being lazy. They just want you to do all this work for them. And, what we talked about with Elliot Katz the other day about the kind of man that women want, a strong man. They don't seem to understand that women want a man that's by her side who's strong and capable and who takes charge and who's a problem solver. And any guy that she has to take care of kind of like a baby, it's hard to get literally worked up and excited as women do about their men if you have a man who's acting like a kid. Eh, unless a woman has problems, that's not going to be attractive to her. So you guys, then you wonder why your woman don't want to get busy with you. It's because you act like a baby and it turns her off. Okay, you don't roll in there and just, take care, just handle shit like a man. You act like a kid. You're just another child. And then, she's not excited by you. You don't turn her on anymore. And that's your fault. So these are examples that are, so ladies, if you're feeling this kind of way about your man, but you haven't really been able to pinpoint why, This might give you an idea as you kind of go through and say, yeah, these are the kind of things that he does. And it just infuriates me and it turns me off. I don't like it. And this woman has a story along these lines about her husband acting like a big baby. So I lost a shitload of weight going on a decade now, and I've kept it off. My husband got recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and he went on this weight loss and exercise regimen, and he's doing very well. He says it's really easy. Guess why? Because I am his in-house dietitian. All he has to do is go to the gym and then eat what I give him. And yes, consistently going to the gym isn't all that easy for a lot of people, but he actually enjoys it, so it's not a challenge for him personally. So all his tasty, nutritious, pre-portioned, calorie counted, fitting his fucking macros, which he changes all the time, incidentally, depending on what he's meeting at the moment. And oh God, the endless conversations we have to have about it. I am so over this. Ooh, because if she wasn't there taking care of him, he probably would have died from having diabetes by now. This is another avenue of emotional labor that women put in. That thing that if a guy has bad performance, he has issues in that direction. He's like, Speedy Gonzalez, or he's Mr. Half-Mast, or he's got, I don't know, I can't think of anything else. I'm trying to think of these polite euphemisms, but you know what I'm talking about. He's got these issues, and we are socialized that we can't really jam him up about it because it's going to hurt his ego. And that if we are not, fulfilled, that we have to just eat it and just wait for our turn, or that's just how it is, or accept it. But he does love me though, and all these kind of things that women jump around and accept from men that they really don't have to. These are all things that are emotional labor. Again, you're taking care of someone else and their feelings at the expense of yours. You're not fully expressing your anger, your disappointment, your disgust, your rage, whatever, because you're trying to protect that person's feelings. So you're living a lie to yourself and to them to protect them from something. Like, wow. And, even as part of that too, the faking it thing, and women who fake it, that's part of that too. Emotional labor. You're denying what didn't happen, and you're, making him believe that it did. Why? To protect his ego once again. All right. Now, when you look at this kind of thing, it was really interesting because women, they say that women file for anywhere between 60 and 90%, depending upon her socioeconomic status, of divorces in the United States. Between 60 and 90% women get fed up and they file for divorce. Is there any wonder why? Is there any confusion why this happens? When you think about all this kind of burden that's put on women, it's like, okay, why would I want to do all that? So once women get out of a marriage, most aren't really in a big rush to get back into it. So amongst previously married, this is from the PEW, research website. Amongst previously married men, 65% either want to remarry or are not sure. 30% say they don't want to remarry. Among women who are currently divorced or widowed, only 43% say that they want to remarry, while 54% say they are flatly not interested. That's more than half. And I don't know why there was a little bit of skewage there. There's the 3% that's not accounted for. But if you look at that, what does that tell you? That men and women have a very different experience within marriage. And for women, it's just a burden and it's exhausting and they don't want to do it. Once they get out, they're done. Okay, they just want to be free to do what it is that they want to do. So this is this to me demonstrates how, and then also we didn't, I couldn't find any statistics on it, how long men stay single after they get divorced or are widowed, because it just seems like a lot of them are pretty quick to jump into something else. They can't stand being by themselves without having somebody to coo and goo over them, and have make meals for them, and have excuse me, have company with and all that. It's very difficult for them. So I just wanted to share that too. Allison says, I had a conversation a while back with my husband talking about this, where I tried to express my frustration with the weight of all the tasks that were left for me to do. The critical tasks necessary for the functioning of our daily lives, and how sucky it made me feel that if I didn't do those tasks, they were left undone. I said that what really wrung my heart was a worry that someday I would be too old to take care of all these details, and there would be no one who would take care of me. My husband insisted that I shouldn't worry about such things, that he would step up. And I cried, so what's stopping you from stepping up now? He had no answer. So we're frequently told that women are more intuitive, more empathetic, more innately willing and able to offer nurturing and supporting, caretaking, and advice than men are. And it's basically a convenient way for men to skate out from doing anything by saying, they try to build women up to make something. Well, you're all these wonderful things. How can I even compare to that? You have this down. You're just a master at it. And so a lot of women, drink the Kool-Aid, and they believe that nonsense. In reality, men can be just as much of any of those things as a woman can, because they have feelings just like we do. And it basically, though, the societal structure gives men an out, and it gives them an built-in excuse to be lazy bums. That's what that's all about. So, this is really demonstrated by this poem um, called I Want a, well, it's not really a poem. It's like an essay, I guess is the best way to put it. A little short essay by a lady named Judy Brady called I Want a Wife. And it says, I want a wife who will take care of my physical needs. I want a wife who will keep my house clean, a wife who will pick up after my children, a wife who will pick up after me. I want a wife who will keep my clothes cleaned, ironed, mended, replaced when need be, and who will see to it that my personal things are kept in their proper place so that I can find what I need the minute that I need it. I want a wife who cooks the meals, a wife who's a good cook. I want a wife who will plan the menus, do the necessary grocery shopping, prepare the meals, serve them pleasantly, and do the cleaning up while I do my studying. I want a wife who will care for me when I am sick, and sympathize with my pain and loss of time from school or work. I want a wife to go along when our family takes a vacation so that someone can continue to care for me and my children when I need a rest and change of scene. I want a wife who will take care of the details of my social life. When my wife and I are invited out by my friends, I want a wife who will take care of the babysitting arrangements. When I meet people at school that I like and want to entertain, I want a wife who will have the house clean, will prepare a special meal, serve it to me and my friends, and not interrupt when I talk about things that interest me and my friends. I want a wife who will have arranged that the children are fed and ready for bed before my guests arrive so that the children do not bother me. I want a wife who takes care of the needs of my guests so that they feel comfortable, who makes sure that they have an ashtray, that they are past the hors d'oeuvres, that they are offered a second helping of the meal, that their wine glasses are replenished when necessary, that their coffee is served to them as they like it. And I want a wife who knows that sometimes I need a night out by myself. Shit, I want a wife. It's like, I just, this is what you're taking on, though, ladies. This is the expectation of, without question, plus more. I mean, this is just a part of the essay. This is the expectation of the majority of men when they get married. This is what they expect rather. This is their secret, and the secret agreement, the secret contract that I talked about in that video. I'll try to remember to link to it. This is exactly what I was talking about. So you don't really understand what, what's going on and what the expectations are of you, and you just kind of slide into that role without ever questioning it until it's too late. And it's 15 years down the road, and you're exhausted, have lines and wrinkles, and you're just angry all the time. But the bottom line is, if you are in a situation where you are doing an overwhelming amount of emotional labor in your relationship, or even at work, or even in maintaining your friendships, with your other, with your girls and stuff, you always the one organizing everything. You always the one picking where you guys are going to go on vacation. You the one collecting money when you go out to eat for the bill. You're doing too much. Okay, stop doing that. Make people step up to the plate and do their fair share. And just remember, take a break. Take a break sometimes from taking care of other people. You don't need to feel guilty about it, about taking time for yourself, away from your husband, away from your children, away from your parents, away from your job. They're called mental health days. And if you don't have somebody who will do that emotional labor for you, that means you have to either do it yourself, or with friends who are, more woke on the subject. Maybe they watch this video and all you guys are like, "Oh man, we got to do something. We need to fix this." My suggestion is that you take turns doing that for each other. If you don't have, men in your life or people in your life that will to do these things, buy you flowers just because, get you, a card to tell you how much mean to them and things like that. You amongst your friends, you guys take that on the responsibility on to show each other that kind of emotional support and that kind of love and respect. And it will go a long way towards making all of you a lot happier and, feel a lot better about what you're doing in your relationships with yourself and with them. That's my suggestion. This is Deb Cooper, survivingdating.com. Thanks very much for watching another Debruary 2020 video. We got a lot more on the plate for you through the end of the month. Please become a subscriber to this channel. Hit that subscription button and the instant notification bell. I'll talk to you soon.